Hello there, welcome to Coding Studio. This is B and I am continuing the JavaScript tutorial videos, and this is going to be the third video, and this is going to be a bit of a bigger topic. I will try to keep it short. I know my first two videos were quite long, like half an hour. I'm going to try to make this a bit shorter and try to talk a bit more enthusiastically, or how should I say that? So, let's jump into the topic. We are going to be discussing functions this time. As you can see, I have the detailed file explaining them too. This is already up in my GitHub repository under the name of functions.js in the JavaScript folder. The link is going to be in the description, so you can check it out, clone or fork the repository, and try out these stuff here. We are going to be talking about how to declare functions, what is a function, what's a function expression, pure, not pure functions. I'm gonna be quick about pure or not pure because at a beginner level it's not important at all. If you are using a major framework like React or Angular, and especially the state management part of it, you will have to use pure functions for it, but that's another topic for later. So let's just create a new file here. I'm gonna call it fun.js. That's KS. So let's try again and name it JS or TS. But I'm gonna go with JS. I don't think I will put this to the side now. Okay, let's just say what a function is. So a function is when there is something that you do in the code and you don't want to write the whole thing down again and again and again. So let's say I have an if statement. If condition. If you watched the previous video about if statements, you should know what this is gonna do. If not, then I recommend checking it out. It's a bit of a long video, but I try to be as thorough about everything I write here as I can. Okay, and if the condition is true, let's just say console.log. I'm gonna use strings here again. The condition was true. Okay, I have this if statement now, and it depends on the condition. I'm gonna write the condition here. This time it's just gonna be 1 equals true. I'm gonna put it in parentheses so you understand that it's equals this expression. It's gonna be evaluated to Boolean value, which is either true or false. And let's say I'm just gonna put an else in here, which is gonna say the condition wasn't true. Oh, and just to be clear, you can use single quotation mark, double quotation mark, backtick, anything here to describe a string. I'm just using single quotation marks. And the condition was not true. Okay, so if I run this now, I don't know if you can guess it. Okay, it's clear. Let's just run this node, and I am not in the JavaScript directory now, so let's go back a folder and say node fun.js. That's the file I just created. The condition was not true because 1 is not equal to true. And if I delete one equation, the condition was true. That's another interesting thing about JavaScript, that if you're not type checking, 1 actually equals to true. But you're never gonna use it. I hope you shouldn't use it for anything. Okay, so this time this is our condition. But what if later on in the code I wanna do the same if statement. Now I would write a function which is a function. I will say the name of the function. Let's just evaluator. You can name it whatever you want actually, but I encourage you to write a descriptive name. Okay, so here it can get parameters and it will do something with those parameters. So the evaluator function is gonna use this here. I'm just gonna paste it inside the function here. So this is our block. If you watched the video about variables, you should kind of know what a block is. So this is our block here, and as you can see, I'm not sure. Okay, this is global now. You should not use global variables, but this time it's fine. No, actually I'm gonna delete this. And as you can see, now it doesn't know what a condition is. If I were to run evaluator, it will just throw me an error that it does not know what the condition is. And this condition can be anything else. Now here in the parentheses you can give parameters to a function. I'm going to call my parameter condition conveniently. And now whatever this evaluator function gets as an argument, which is a parameter here, then it will put this here, and the evaluator, when it runs, it either will log out the condition was true or the condition was false. So if I were to say 1 equals true as a condition here, which we know is false, then when I run the code, the condition was not true, because this, you can imagine this here, if it was right here, because I gave it a condition when calling the function. It put the condition into the if and evaluated it based on what's here. So if I delete one equal sign from here, it's gonna be true this time, as we saw before. And actually I can run the evaluator again, and I give it a different condition. 1 equals 2. And first the condition was true, that 1 equals true with 2 equal signs without type check. The condition was true. The second time, 1 equals to 2, the condition was not true, because 1 isn't equal to 2. So that's one thing. Or I can say that if I call the function, I want to say, let's call this function greeter function, and what it's going to say, hello there, and then it's going to put the condition there. I'm going to, if you remember what I said about the operators, you can add strings to strings, and I'm just going to add name here, and our parameter is going to be code name this time. So our function gets a name parameter and then puts the name after a hello there. So if I call the greeter function and say that the name is B, then the output of this function is going to be hello there B, as you can see, and I can call it with different names. So let's say Anna, I call it hello there B, hello there Anna. So this is how you can use a function, that if you don't want to write something like this all the time, you can just conveniently do that. And I encourage you to do it as often as possible. You can try creating, or there's another very simple function which is a pretty good example. function yep, let's call it add. It takes an a parameter and a b parameter, and it returns a plus b. Okay, you can return from a function. If you write something after return, it doesn't get run because it exits the function upon return. If I call this function add, and the first parameter is going to be 1 and the second is going to be 2, the output of this function is going to be 1 plus 2. If I were to run it, you wouldn't see anything because it returned the value, but it didn't log it to the console. So I am just gonna log the, I am just gonna log the output of this function to the console. As you can see, it did its job. If I wanted to show it on the console instantly, I could have just done this, and it would just type out, oh, I didn't call the function, add 1, 2. This is when you call the function. This is when you describe your function, you declare it, and this is when you call the function. If you don't call the function, it does nothing by itself. You have to call it, and if you're gonna be a developer, you're gonna make this mistake a whole lot of times when you just describe the function and never call it, and you're gonna be angry. So, as you can see, it did log the output for me. But what if I want to save my result equals to add 1 plus 2. Add 1, 2. What do you think my result would be? Console.log, and let's see, my result is my result. What do you think it would be? It should log out my result, colon 3, right? Nope, my result is undefined. As you can see, why? Because this function didn't return the value, it only showed us in the console. So if I want to actually return a value to my result, I have to return a plus b. Now my result is 3 because I return it. This is not returning, this is just showing. You are mainly going to use console.log as a debugger, or for debugging purposes. Not a debugger, you're going to use it for debugging purposes. So it's fine to use it, you are not going to leave it in production code, but you have to return. And that's what a pure function actually is. It gets something and returns something, and it does not have a side effect. And I'm going to tell you what a side effect is in a moment. So my result is 3. It works fine. What a side effect is if I have, let's say, that counter, okay, let's make it equal to 0. This is a number, and if I did this in my function, what it does, plus plus is shorthand for counter plus equal 1. Okay, and if you watch the operators video, you know what plus equals is. It just adds 1 to the value. So every time I run this function, ups the counter. So if I console.log that counter I cannot type counter before the function, and I just call the function. Delete please. Counter before the function runs, and the value is gonna be counter. I have problems with this counter word. Okay, so counter is 0, and this is just a declaration, so it does nothing. So at this point the counter should still be 0. Then I run this function, then counter gets added 1. And I'm gonna actually, I'll just copy paste it. Yep. After. Now, as you might have guessed it, counter is gonna be 1. Let's see. Yep, it's 1. Now what's the problem with it? Well, technically no problem, but this is not a pure function anymore because it has a side effect. And the side effect is that it adds 1 to counter. That's a side effect. A pure function doesn't do anything like that. It gets something and gives back something. It doesn't do anything with any outside thing. That's the difference between a pure and non-pure functions. You are gonna work with pure functions most of the time, so you're not gonna use a lot of global variables either. This is a global variable because it's not inside the function or something, it's just in the code somewhere, but not in a function or any other block, just the file itself. So you are not gonna write a lot of side effects because it's not clean code and it can mess up a whole lot of things. So yes, that's actually sort of it about pure and non-pure functions. Now about how to declare a function, or the difference between function expression and function declarations. It's pretty easy. Function declaration is this. If I write down function, I'm gonna make it quick, and param, and then console.warn is the same as console.log, only if it's in a browser it has a different color, and in bash or terminal or cmd it might have another color, might not. I didn't call the function again. Name, whatever. Yeah, it just logs out high. It doesn't have a different color in my terminal. And okay, so this is a function declaration, and a function expression is when I say const or let or var, but I'm going to use const. And I actually recommend you use const for function expressions too. I say the name of the function, my function equals, and I am doing a function here. And let's say prime console.warn. You can use log or anything. I'm just gonna stick with warn now. These two are actually the same, besides their name. They do the very same thing. One is saved in a variable, sort of, but this, we call it the same name, my fun. And bam, it's very much the same. Hi. The reason that they have a different color is because name is probably already taken by JavaScript, so let's call it my function like that, and my function like that, and now it's the same. So it's very much the same. This is an anonymous function, and you gave it a name here. An anonymous function is something either by this syntax or this syntax. I do this. This is an anonymous function too. And actually this one can be like that too. So if I just delete this part and I write function, then this is the same again. Now, if we are doing a function declaration, this one hoists the function declaration. The expression does not, for the same reason that you use const. If you watch the variables video, you know that const doesn't hoist. Function does. Kind of the same useless stuff, except if you are gonna use React in JavaScript with prop types and you want to declare prop types at the top. I have never used function for a different, for a specific reason other than that. I have used function, but usually for no specific reasons, maybe because of naming conventions and stuff like that, but yeah, that's how you declare it. Now, another thing, let's go with const myFun again, equals, if you only have one parameter, so this is our thing, return parameter. This is a parameter. What it does is I give it a parameter, which is gonna be apple this time, and it's gonna return the same thing I gave it as a parameter. So this time the argument is apple, so what I'm expecting to see in the console is apple, and it is. So this is a very simple function, and we can make it even simpler. If you have only one parameter here, you can lose the parenthesis, but only if it's a function expression. It doesn't work with the function declaration, so you cannot do it this way, that function something apple and so on. Oops. Okay, so you can lose the parenthesis. It's gonna work the same way as it did before. And if you want to make it even simpler, you can lose the curly braces too, like that. And in this case, you don't need return as well, because it automatically returns. So if you don't use the curly, it returns it. If I were to say console.log myFun with the argument apple or apple, then we get back apple, the same as we did with apple. So this is another thing that's sort of easy. So this is what a function is, how you declare one. What I recommend you to use from now on is either stick with the function syntax like this, that you function, my function, parenthesis, curly, and you return, or you stick with or you stick with const my function equals this arrow and return. this is what I recommend you to use. This is clean, readable, fast, and constant, and doesn't hoist. So this is how I recommend you to declare functions as an expression. Okay, let's see if I have missed something from my functions file. Declaring expression. Yep, actually here you can see that the anonymous function. Yep, and I'm actually explaining here a few stuff in the file. A to B, I'm looking for a specific thing. Well, whatever. So if you have it like this, you cannot lose the parentheses. You can only lose it if you have one argument or parameter, but you can still lose the return and of course only if it's here. So it's the same, it returns. Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay. So yeah, that's about what I wanted to talk about functions. So this is going to be in my GitHub repo. If you enjoyed my content or the previous videos or are looking forward to the next one, please subscribe or hit like or however you feel. If you disagree with something I just said, feel free to comment. Please don't dislike, but it's up to you at the end of the day. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video, which is, I think, gonna be about objects or loops. No, it's gonna be about arrays. So have a nice day.